Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I know I look like garbage. I rolled out of bed, but what's new on this channel? Now, today we're going to be talking about some very naughty things. Why on earth is everybody in the restaurant industry more prone to utilizing certain substances as opposed to other industries? And there are three variables that I've deduced that are the main ones for why. One, serving is considered a very high stress job with almost zero job stability. It's one of those jobs where you can make $100 a day, $5 a day, $1,000 a day, 100% luck of the draw. Just depends on where you work, how busy it is, and what people are tipping. And on top of that, it is one of the most unstable jobs. You as a server are one of the most expendable individuals in your industry, in your company, in your restaurant. There are always servers looking for another serving job, and if you're just not up to par, someone's going to get replaced. It will probably be you if you suck. And yeah, that's kind of like one of the big reasons. It's just a really high stress, unstable job that a lot of people are involved with because it can make you good money and provide you enough livelihood. But it is one of those instances where the amount of laborious effort, the stress, and the devotion to maybe get paid is, it's overwhelming to say the least. Especially when you have a really bad night. Maybe some people, after they have a really bad night, go and have some drinks, indulge themselves in their other vices. The other big one is that you are constantly surrounded by other individuals who are doing what you're trying to avoid. A lot of people indulge in various narcotics, various substances, and alcohol. Also, in most restaurants, you're surrounded by alcohol, and if that's a vice for you, that might also pose an issue, more temptation. But in general, almost all of the other servers that surround you, literally almost every other serving job I've worked, there's always been some sort of really bad substance abuse issue amongst a series of servers or all the servers. Just depends on where you work. I've worked at some places where it's not common. It's like based on who the other servers are, whatever. But at the end of the day, most places I've worked, everybody's doing a little something. At the very least, people are drinking very heavily. It's just what it is. And the third reason, which I think is one of the biggest reasons as well, is to be a server, you can have a criminal record. A lot of other jobs don't actually give you the ability to, have them if you have criminal records, if you have past assaults, DUIs, drug charges, whatever. Being a server or a chef or a back of house worker, a food runner, an expediter, any kind of job you can get in a restaurant, maybe bypassing anything managerial, you can very easily get in, even if you are using a ton of substances, an alcoholic, an abuser. Like, you can do anything. It doesn't matter about your past history, if you were a stripper, if you were, anything. If you have a criminal record, you can still become a server. And, it's a job opportunity. It's a job opportunity that can get you way more money in spite of your past circumstances, And it's one of those jobs where the degree is the experience is just, you've served at other places, and a lot of people who find that they want a certain serving job just lie through their teeth and say, hey, I was working fine dining at this place. Most of the time, they don't check your stuff. A lot of places don't check your stuff. A lot of fine dining places don't check your information. They don't do references. They just look at what's good. They look at your experience, and they're like, all right, let's put them in for an interview. If they're, a good sort, extroverted, able to converse appropriately. Those are like the big dealios. Like, they don't really care that much about what you do or what you've done. They care about what you're doing in the workplace. They care if you're able to make high sales, and they care if you are able to, outside of making high sales, be extroverted and make the company, at least look good. So I think those are like the main reasons why servers have such a bad reputation, partially unknown, for substance abuse issues. And yes, some of the substances that a lot of servers use are illegal. Don't do it. A lot of other substances still become harmful over a course of time because you're just constantly using them. Like alcohol. Alcohol is the biggest one. Everybody is drinking. Everybody's drinking a lot. And when you don't want to drink, they will try a lot of the time to just, peer pressure you into having one drink or one shot. And it's the same thing as you get to a bar at the end of the night and you're hanging out with all your fellow server friends, and maybe you don't feel like drinking that day. Most of the time, you're gonna have somebody offering you a shot, somebody offering you one drink. Just one drink. I'll cover your drink for you. It's free. Blah, 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 blah. And I recommend, if you're ever in a situation like this, don't take it. Don't take the drink. It's not worth it. What's worth it? Your constant habitual utilization of something that you do not need, that is harmful to you over a course of time, or the one free drink that you were pressured into drinking when you told yourself you wouldn't drink. Personally, staying on your course is quite important when it comes to these kinds of things, when it comes to being a server, because it's so easy, and I've seen this happen so many times, is a server starts drinking with all their drinking buddies that are also servers. Someone puts some Coke down. The other server takes the Coke, now they're addicted to Coke. They just get into the habit of using Coke. I've seen people get into heavy drugs. A great example is actually, I had this guy I was dating for a little while, and then it fell off, and then we were just flirt buddies at work. And I remember he was really bad with drinking. One of our first dates, and this was why I kind of stopped dating him after a while. And when I say after a while, it was like basically, it fell apart really quick. He took me out, but he ended up getting a DUI on the date after. He got like really rude, and he was a server with me and all my fellow servers. And, it sucks. And I'm not going to go into too many details, but outside of that, when I was working with him, he started then getting into Coke. And then he lost his job because he just made no-call, no-shows. And when you no-call, no-show, you're going to get fired. But that's a commonality. It's like people get fired all the time. If you get fired as a server, you just find another job. Oh, look at that. You're still addicted to all your substances, and now you're jobless. Like, it's just a commonality. It's really weird. It's really stressful. And honestly, my people, I really recommend steering clear from the substance abuse. Steering clear from allowing your vices to take hold regarding the pressures of work, the laborious efforts that come with such. And another important thing is it's not just serving. Serving is just one of those jobs where it's way more common, way more readily available, way, way, way more extensive when it comes to substance abuse, just because you're having like way more access, exposed to a bunch of different people who also have access to those kinds of things, But then if you're in other jobs, it's still a possibility. There are other jobs that also don't check criminal records. They don't do drug testing. They're more relaxed. If you're not in a government job, you got a shot at finding something. If you're not handling firearms, if you're not handling government paperwork, if you are not a government worker, you can usually get away with some sort of substance abuse. Do I recommend it? No. The one thing about my ex, actually, that I have to mention is the only thing I really had respect for him about after a while was he still decided he would not smoke weed when he was handling firearms. And he was just a retail worker at a firearm store. Like one firearm store. And the store sucked. He didn't get paid a lot, but he still stuck to his guns. Haha, pun intended. And instead of that, most of the time, people just let their vices take hold and they'd rather quit the job and find a different job than drop the vice. And I think that's a really negative perspective. Now, later on, my ex probably would smoke weed. He acted like it, and I thought he was high half the time. So I don't know if he was honest, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt. But I just want you to know, like, when you get into serving, or if you've been serving a while, try not to let the persuasion of others affect you, particularly when it comes to substances. It becomes a slippery slope. It's a snowball effect, and it can destroy you and your livelihood, your family, your career, everything, really. And I'm really lucky. When I came across the border, I didn't touch anything. I didn't even drink. And then I started drinking when I was a server. I'd go out with my server friends and have a little bit of this, have a little bit of that. But actually, I wasn't pressured by servers initially to drink. It was actually my mom's ex-boyfriend who tried to make me, like, drink for the first time or something. And it was really rude. And it was like a family dinner and stuff. But we were at a restaurant, whatever. It was really rude. I felt really offended in that regard. Because he also knew that I was really anti-drinking at the time. But then, as time went by, I got more relaxed around alcohol and all that kind of thing. It was way cheaper in the United States, so it was just on the basis of access. But when I started serving, that's when I started drinking more. And, I've had my nights. I've had my wild nights. But at the end of the day, if I tell myself I don't want to drink, I'm not going to drink. And a lot of the time I'll tell myself, I don't want to drink. It's only so fun. This is the problem, is it only relieves you of so much stress. It only becomes so fun. And it only becomes so good feeling until it's not good feeling. And then it just becomes your habit, your painful habit. It isn't even entertainment at that point, it's distraction. You know, you drink to distract yourself from the trials and tribulations of life, from the stresses of work, from the feelings of self doubt, from the loathing, from everything. And then that becomes your everything. And then that's where addiction drives itself. In my personal opinion, I think addiction is born from habit. I think that it's when you can't control a habit. But anyways, when it comes to serving, I really recommend steering clear of a lot of that stuff. Just have fun every now and then, and don't do anything that's legitimately addictive. Please don't do anything that's legitimately addictive. It's a slippery slope, and I've never seen people get out of it. I've seen people who just dabble. Or, oh, I do a little bit of coke here and there. Or I do a little bit of, this drug. I do a little bit of heroin here or there. I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That kind of mentality. And at that point, you are just using drugs. Like, there's no excuse by that point. It's not like, oh, I don't do drugs, I only do them on the weekends. It's like, no, you are using them. I don't recommend it. I know I'm a little bit, like, all over the place at the end here, but I just gotta tell you, man, it's not worth it. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really indulged myself. It's probably the only thing that's gone right for me, and the only thing that hasn't propelled me into a state of psychosis and drug-fueled rage is the fact that I've refrained from using drugs. The only thing is, and usually when I drink, I've seen people who become angry drunks. That was the DUI dude. I've seen people who become violent drunks. I've seen people who become just blackout drunks, stupid drunks, flirtatious drunks. I've seen people who become just chill drunks, or they don't get drunk, they're just rocking a buzz. And then I've seen happy drunks and sad drunks. And I've met a sad drunk before. It's very sad. It's very disappointing. It's like self-loathing, and it's like almost. It's almost like you just brood while you're intoxicated, and I don't understand why you'd want to be intoxicated if you brood, but I suspect it has to do with you would brood anyways, but you'd brood in silence, and then when you get drunk, you can socialize enough to talk about your problems, and that's why you're a sad drunk. But anyways, I'm a happy drunk, or I'm an extroverted drunk. When I get drunk or when I'm drinking, I just get more and more extroverted, and I like talking to people and blah, blah, blah. Usually the people in my inner circle. But if people try to talk to me, I'm very open to talking to them. And it's a double-edged sword. It's not great. It's not the best. It's also not horrible. Just depends on the circumstances. I just don't recommend really getting drunk in general. Like, I really don't think it's a good idea. I think you should try to understand the concepts of moderation. In fact, one moment. I recommended it once, and I'll do it again. Read some meditations, my dudes. It will help you understand one important thing, and that is moderation. And even if you can't understand it through this book, I recommend exercising moderation and playing your soul to Temperance. Temperance is a beautiful being. She's ruthless, but she's nice. To end this, let's finish it with a quote today. Marcus Aurelius will say to me, I want to start with a chapter. We'll do book 5. This is just a random page in book 5. Things are in such a kind of envelopment and obscure to philosophers, and to some altogether unintelligible. Even the Stoics themselves had difficulty understanding. All of our approval is changeable, but where is the man who never changes? Carry your thoughts then to the objects themselves, and consider how short-lived they are and worthless, and that they may be in the possession of a worthy wretch, or a whore, or a robber. Turn to the morals of those who live with you. It is hardly possible to endure even the most agreeable of them, to say nothing of a man being hardly able to endure himself in such darkness then, and dirt and in such constant flux, both of substance and of time, and of motion and of things moved. What is there worth being highly prized, or even an object of serious pursuit, I cannot imagine. But on the contrary, it is a man's duty to comfort himself, and to wait for the natural dissolution, and not to be vexed at the delay, but to rest in these principles only. 1. The one, aka 1. That nothing will happen to me which is not comfortable to the nature of the universe. And, now we're getting into, like, his laws and principles. But the point of this is actually a really good book. I recommend playing your hand at it. That was just one quote. And he talks extensively. It's like constant repeating, looping thoughts almost. So if you have that mentality where you need to be driven in with the same kinds of thematic views over and over again to perpetuate some level of habitual change, I would recommend playing your hand at Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. Anyways, I love this book so much. It's honestly, like, it's better than the Bible in my opinion, but that's because I just love philosophy in general. I'm a lover of philosophy. I don't care if it's chaotic philosophy. I don't care if it's soulful philosophy. I love philosophy. But yeah. Try and just not let yourself be swept up by the damnation or the potential damnation that could come with such substances. And, honestly, some people will try and pressure you into it, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, that was the video. That's why I think servers or whatever have all these substance abuse issues. And if you're a server or you're going to become a server, don't, expect this instantaneously, because it's not every place. But it's a problem. It's a thing, and it's worth noting. So anyways, that was the video, my people. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Slater.